Hello, Zyy'nai of planet Earth. My name is Zyy'nai. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Zyy'nai as a reading instrument. Regardless of what it is you're doing in life, you're always going to be using your Zyy'nai, V, and Jai in some form or another. So the way that you're going to want to come at this is by maximizing this potential. With doing mojo reading, for example, it's going to be important that you know how you can use your powers in the best way you possibly can as a mojo reading instrument. So let's start with your first power of Z. Z is very good at looking at a person as being a component within a greater system, looking at a human as being an individual energy producing unit. Kind of like looking at one individual human as being as an element on a periodic table and seeing where they fit into this system. So it's very good at taking external math motifs and breaking them down into social alchemy math. Z also naturally thinks in terms of seeing something as a resource and thinking about the best way that that resource can be implemented. So one of the things that your Z can do when reading is thinking in terms of how you can utilize this human that you're looking at, this energy producing unit, for the most optimal, productive, harmonious way. Z also has powers of statistical deduction. With any given situation, there's always going to be some kind of trend that's involved. And this has a lot to do with prior knowledge of the bubble that you're in and the way that mojos statistically tend to be distributed within that bubble. Meaning there are certain statistical probabilities that certain mojos will appear in certain bubbles. Now keep in mind that mojo reading is not based on statistical probability, and a person's mojo should never be determined based solely on probability. That's not reading a person, that's taking a guess based on what is shown to be probable, and mojo reading is not guessing. However, statistical deduction still does have its usefulness because it is a fact that there are trends in bubbles, and depending on which bubble it is, certain mojos will actually be more prominent than others. There are trends because humans actually are energy production units, and when you allow energy production units to play out their lives, they will follow these energetic trends. So the statistics is something that's good to be aware of because it can help you direct your attention correctly, as well as check yourself against these probabilities. Then when you call attention to this statistic, you can take extra care to make sure you are seeing what you think you're seeing. Z also has powers of protocol implementation and SOP enforcement, which is going to be very important to you in mojo reading, because mojo reading has required protocols that need to be met in order to have firm or accurate reads. Anytime you need to run certain tests, certain protocols must be met in order to actually get accurate data from it. The same is true for mojo reading. There's an artistic process that needs to be protected in mojo reading. And to do that, then you need to enforce the necessary protocols that this process needs. You need to be in the right headspace, you need to be free of internal and external distractions, you need to have a sufficient amount of information or media of sufficient quality to work with. And all this and more is the minimum criteria necessary for achieving a firm or accurate read. And so you need to be aware of and enforce this checklist of protocols when you are doing mojo reading. Next is your power of Nai. Nai gives a lot of powerful abilities when it comes to mojo reading, such as detachment, perspective shifting, prediction, and global modeling. To be in quasi-state, which is the ideal state for mojo reading, what's going to be very important for you is to begin by detaching in order to have a completely clear perspective, uninfluenced by other powers and uninfluenced by other distractions. Perspective shifting is also going to be very important because this allows you to see different angles from different perspectives, which will be useful in mojo reading because you can use it to test different perspectives against what you're seeing in order to clearly understand what you're seeing. Global modeling will also be very important because when you look at a human, then you're seeing one energy producing unit that is part of an entire matrix of energy producing units that are all interconnected and part of a greater whole. And when you're reading this person, then you are seeing how they fit into this human matrix. Nai's powers of prediction will also be very important because as you're reading the person, you're going to want to run simulations of your subject, how they would respond to different situations. So you can make predictions based on what you're reading. And you're able to do this because of the fact that they are a part of a math. And being a part of that math means that it will unfold in certain patterns, which can be predicted. Then next is your power of V, and now we're getting into modulation powers. And when you talk about modulation powers, then we also need to introduce the concept of fetishing. When you fetish on something, you're putting a very focused, you're channeling energy into certain aspects of the power that's being used, the power that's being fetished on. And it helps you with the greater storyline. The question is, what are the best activities for you to fetish on as Zyy'nai? How would you do that, and how rewarding will it be? Mojuridi is going to be very rewarding for you as a Zyy'nai, and therefore this is something that you're going to want to kinsei on. One of the abilities that V gives is aesthetic appreciation. And this is when you're taking in just the pure visceral experience of what you're looking at. And you can admire the sophistication of the biotechnology and evolutionary sleekness that they are composed of, really appreciating their design. Then V also has the power of artistic appreciation. This is seeing humans as works of art and developing your connoisseur's eye for noting the nuanced artistic details in other humans. Then there's visceral appreciation, which is looking at another human in the same way that you would look at a spectacular animal. Just the majestic and animalistic quality of other humans. This is another power that's very important for you kind of developing your artistic connoisseur's palette for other humans, and which is a big part of your kenseiing on humans. Then last is your power of Zyy'nai. What comes with Zyy'nai is the power of empathy. Empathy will allow you to connect with the person you're reading, and this can help you get not just their mojo, but also other motifs that are involved with the person, such as development and the different states that they're in as they change in real time. Gut reaction is also a very powerful ability that comes with Zyy'nai that can be used in mojo reading, because as you develop your gut reactions, then you can develop a very nuanced language of gut reactions. And then when you cross-check gut reactions that you're getting in real time with your language of gut reactions, then you can get very nuanced information about the person you're reading, like development levels and toxicity levels. The vulnerability of Zyy'nai and recognizing and feeling the impingements that are hitting your Zyy'nai gives it a very strong power. And you can read the way that it's being impinged and figure out why you're being hit this way. And once you're able to connect why your Zyy'nai is reacting to another human this way, it's a very powerful way to read a human through reading yourself. Then Zyy'nai also has the power of internalizing. And this includes internalizing life lessons that you learn from mojo reading, or also other aspects that have happened to you in your life, so you don't make the same mistakes over and over again. There are all kinds of things that can cause you to get not just mojo reading misreads, but also life misreads. And a lot of times mojo reading misreads are caused by life misreads. Only by internalizing the mistakes that you've made and the lessons that you've learned from them can you make sure that you actually do move forward and don't make the same mistakes again. So know yourself, grow yourself, and save the world, and all of this will be bonus stacked by knowing what you have to work with as a Zyy'nai.